Happy spring break, Camden Catholic. Let's start off with the obvious. This is very late. My apologies. I don't feel good about it, but it kind of is what it is at this point. So what I'm going to do, probably due to that, is maybe think about giving some type of extension tickets or something like that to help circumvent the fact that I didn't hold up my end of the bargain. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to make one long flip, possibly break it up into two parts, depending on how long this takes, okay? But let's go ahead and get started. So we're talking about the eve of revolution in France. So this is the French Revolution, the causes of it, and we can break the causes of the French Revolution down into three separate parts, okay? Here's how they go. Number one, bad leaders, all right? So bad leaders is the first one. Number two, poor economics, okay? And number three, the death of feudalism, all right? So those three things could be considered the main causes of the revolution. So let's go ahead and go into those things, and we'll start off with the bad leaders header, all right? So let's talk about who the leaders were. So first and foremost was this guy, Louis XVI, okay? Louis XVI was a very, very awkward, very clumsy guy, had probably a very good heart, very hard to relate to, though, all right? The French people, not a big fan. But then again, are you really ever going to be a big fan of somebody who lives in a palace 15 miles outside of your capital city and who doesn't deal directly with the people? He has his royal court at Versailles that he rules from there, and he does kind of whatever he wants to. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, is this his fault or is this the people's fault? Whose fault is it really? We don't necessarily know. So next thing, though, he often appeared very, very unfeeling, kind of gruff. He spent his entire life getting in and out of carriages. Dude didn't even know how to ride a horse, apparently. Now, back in the day, was it acceptable for you to not know how to ride a horse? I don't think so, all right? Now, he oftentimes apparently even looked like he didn't want to be king of France. At one point, one of his ministers resigned, and then he was quoted as saying, "Why can't I resign too?" He didn't even want the job. He didn't even want to do this. Now, this was perceived one of two different ways. People either pitied him and felt like, oh, man, he's a nice guy. He just really doesn't want the job. Or people were saying, well, it's too bad. You are the king of France. Time to take it on the chin and actually keep moving forward. I'm a little bit more of the latter. Look, if you're a hereditary monarch and you now have control of the entire country, ask for help, but don't punk out, okay? So let's keep on going. This is his wife. First and foremost thing you should know. Not a very good marriage. She is not French. She has received probably one of the worst raps in history, all right? So, first and foremost, let's tell you the rap that she got, all right? Now, Marie Antoinette, in her early years as queen, was apparently very flighty and irresponsible. Didn't deal directly with the people, didn't take initiatives, didn't try to help her husband. She spent huge amounts of money on clothes, buy a new dress nearly every other day. And here's the kicker. She's not even French, but she's spending French tax money. She's an Austrian. She is actually a Habsburg. Ding, 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 right? So she was terribly unpopular with the people in France. She had very few friends, okay? Now, let's go ahead and talk about the rap that she has gotten. The rap she got was that she didn't like her husband, that she apparently cheated on him a lot. Not physically cheated, but emotionally cheated. Apparently there was this guy named von Wulfhausen from Austria, a general of the Austrian army, that she would frequently exchange letters with and stuff like that. And Louis was very jealous about this. However, they didn't really know each other. They didn't really like each other. It was an arranged marriage for political reasons. It wasn't very often that royals got married for love. So this was a setup. Her mother was the Queen of Austria and considered one of the best ones that Austria had ever seen. And her father is the Emperor of the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire. So you've got the daughter of the most powerful conglomerate nation in the country now married into France. So France now feels that they're completely tied in with the Catholic Church through the Holy Roman Empire and also now buddy-buddy with Austria. Now let's talk about the reaction that this is going to leave with the people. This is going to lead to the French people disliking Austrians even more because they feel like they have the hand in their economics. But apparently, Marie Antoinette was actually a very good diplomat. good at doing foreign relations, very good at economic relations, good at trying to appease different groups of people in the French economy. And this actually comes out much later when the revolution gets really turned up. She actually leads the revolution for like a little bit. So she's gotten a very bad rap, but those are our two bad leaders, right? Now, and as you know, they live in the Palace of Versailles, blah, 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 blah. So here's the second cause, the death of feudalism. So France is still under this thing called the Ancient Regime, also known as the Old Order. Now, you basically go Ancient Regime equals Old Order. Old Order equals feudalism. Good job, Allie, right? So society was divided into 3 estates or classes, okay? But you can't call them classes because there's one estate that has several classes in it. We'll get into that in a minute. But the estates, there's 3 of them, and then there are a couple of classes within the third, okay? But let's go ahead and get into them. But this is the reason why France was becoming so violent. Because look at this political cartoon. This right here is the first estate. That right there is the second estate. And this is supposed to be the third estate. How is the third estate being symbolized? As an old derelict man who's carrying the weight of the entire French society on his back. All right? So, couple things to get into. Actually, we'll get into them later. So, first estate is the clergy. All right? The first estate is the clergy, mainly bishops and church leaders. They enjoy immense wealth and pay no taxes. All right? They control 10% of the land in France, and it's just the Catholic Church. It belongs to them. They don't pay tax on that land. They don't pay tax for their buildings. They don't tax the tithe. They don't tax anything. The clergy in France might have just been printing money. All right? So they are raking in ridiculous amounts of wealth and not paying anything back to the country of which they're housed in, the country of which they are apparently the official religion for. So this is a big, big problem. And they only make up 0.5% of the population, but control 10% of the land. That would be like if a half of a percent of the population of the United States of America, which would be about 1.5 million people in France or in the United States controlled and lived in Texas, and then everyone else was not allowed in there. Very unfair. Very ridiculous, all right? Second estate was the nobility. Really quick asterisk next to the second estate. Just because you're a noble doesn't mean you're rich, all right? Now, the nobles did not pay taxes very much at all, so we're just going to go ahead and say they don't pay taxes, period, all right? They only pay taxes on land that they own, and most of this land is inherited, right? So, high taxes, they own most of the land in France, and they only make up 2.5% of the population. So they hold the top government jobs due to the patronage system, and then also due to several other things like nepotism and, oh, well, he's a baron, so he's a good guy. You got to hire him. He's going to be a good government official. Not necessarily, all right? So jobs during the French Revolution, you need to write this somewhere. Jobs before the French Revolution were based completely on who you knew. Nothing was based on merit. Nothing was based on how hard you worked. You didn't get raises. You didn't try hard to get up in the system. It was based on the family of which you were born from. So this has created a huge, huge problem. Now, no, stop it. No, I don't want it. Hold on. It's my best friend from home. I'm not talking to him right now. All right, anyway, let's keep going. Hold the top government jobs, all these other things, right? Now, let's talk about the third estate. I need you to write this word down. It's a technical term. It's French. It's going to come up probably for the rest of your life, so you need to get used to it, all right? So it starts with the E. It goes capital E, R, apostrophe, Y, B-O-D-Y. As you can tell, it's a French word. Everybody. All right? Now, anyway, and then the second word is else. So everybody else is in the third estate, right? Made up of very different kinds of people. Everyone else is going to be... This is where it gets confusing, okay? And this is where the death of feudalism gets factored in. Because for the longest time under the old order, if you were in the third estate, that meant you were somewhere along the lines of a vassal or a serf or a peasant or, just a regular person. But one little group popped up in the third estate that threw a wrench in the whole system, right? So when we get to the next unit, we're going to talk about industrialism and how that affected a lot of these revolutions and how that affected the economy and how that affected things going forward. But due to the industrialization and the mechanization in factories and the mercantile system and large companies and capitalism and Adam Smith, yay, coming along, there became a third group in the Third Estate, right? And they're these guys right here. You know them by a slang word in America today called bougie, right? Bad and bougie. So, the bourgeoisie, the rural peasants, the urban workers. Now, these three types of people make up 97% of the French population. However, they only own less than half of the wealth in France, less than half,